You know, you would think that Warren Beatty's return to the silver screen would be a much more revered and celebrated thing, especially after such a long hiatus, having not appeared as an actor in a film since 2001 with State and Main, and not having written and directed a film since 1998 with Bulworth. But even leading up to the release of Rules Don't Apply, you would only really hear whispers about the film, not a big hyped thing, if you want to call it that. And now, having been after its first weekend, its opening weekend, and its box office results, it seems to be not the big event that maybe it should be. But in the fact that not too many people are coming out in droves to see the film, I think it speaks quite a bit of what the film is trying to say. This is a movie about old Hollywood, and it's not the most positive vision of it. I wouldn't say it outright indicts old Hollywood in its old kind of ways or anything like that. It's more of like a loving hate letter, if you want to call it that, from Warren Beatty, who of course was introduced to Hollywood within this era, but within his career, I mean, certainly he made a lot of changes to Hollywood himself. I mean, there was a time when Warren Beatty certainly was the king. He was the greatest. He was one of the most bankable actors there was. He was a highly successful producer and director up until maybe, the 90s, where after Bulworth, he kind of took this hiatus, but he's back with Rules Don't Apply, which is in part this story about Hollywood, and in part it's a film about Howard Hughes's later years, where he's just near about being the isolated hermit that unfortunately most people remember him to be, though of course Hughes has been portrayed in a great number of films, played by a great number of actors. I mean, most notably Jason Robards in his Academy Award-winning role in Melvin and Howard, and of course more recently Leonardo DiCaprio in The Aviator. And I think Warren Beatty's portrayal, rightly so, is among the best portrayals of Howard Hughes, though there's always a different interpretation of him, because Howard Hughes, much to his reputation, is like 10 different men in one, and can be interpreted in many different ways in many different eras, and I think Beatty captures this last era quite well. Though I wouldn't go as far as saying is that this, appropriately counts as like a Hughes biopicture of all. It's almost as if, in being what I feel is kind of a very personal film for Beatty, I think he kind of went about this, having written the film as well with Bo Goldman, came about it to say, well, let's make a movie about Hollywood. Let's make this kind of grand thing, as if Hollywood is this grand kingdom, and we have a king, but who is the king of Hollywood? Well, I mean, they could pick any number of big producers or anything like that, but here they go with Howard Hughes, which I think is an apt choice, being this powerful man within this industry, and certainly other industries, but a very unpredictable, very kind of unforgiving, which Hollywood certainly is. And so, I don't know, the movie kind of feels like this kind of grand story in that way, where the focus isn't necessarily on Hughes himself, but more on the subjects of his kingdom. We have Frank Forbes playing a driver who works for his company, and the romantic relationship that sort of evolves with one of Hughes's many hired actresses in Lily Collins, playing Marla, who's kind of this girl next door, very strikingly beautiful actress who has very conservative ways, but kind of wants to challenge the Hollywood persona. And it is about these three and their strange journey together, and how, well, if Hollywood is this kingdom, if Howard Hughes is this king, he's certainly the demented king in the same kind of vein that maybe like King Lear would kind of be, but it is about legacy in a way, and it's about, well, who will inherit this kingdom. I mean, we have a lot of conversations in this film about, say, lineage and DNA, so it kind of plays with that a little bit. And the screenplay by Beatty and Goldman, it does have this, lyrical kind of poetry to it in a certain way, where certain conversations will take place and they'll come into significance quite later, and we just don't see like just the inane ramblings of Howard Hughes. There's almost kind of a method to his madness in a weird way. And I think it is really good in that respect. And I think in showing this kind of transition between old Hollywood and the newer Hollywood, that Beatty himself, I guess, in some ways inherited, we're now seeing yet another kind of passing of the torch, so to speak. And I don't know, if it is a personal story, I guess the best way to tell your own story is to tell somebody else's, which is why he's so fitting for Hughes here. And I feel that, well, this is, I don't know, it's more of an old-fashioned feeling movie. I mean, that's the thing. This movie's not doing too much box office. You're not going to see, packed, sold-out audiences for this. But it's a movie you're not going to see made too much more, especially after this. So I like that, and I like how it does have this old-fashioned way about it. Nothing too fancy, nothing too flashy, but there are very impressive, confident and competent compositions to its cinematography. And in fact, there's one really good tracking shot where we see Hughes and his driver Forbes. They're walking at night. They're having their conversation. Camera doesn't cut. They sit at a table. They're eating burgers. So it's almost like this Night Owls kind of interpretation. And we realize at the end of the scene, the whole time we're looking at these two characters through the point of view of Hughes's enormous plane, the Hercules. So I thought that was a very interesting kind of perspective that it gives us without really knowing. It works on kind of an unconscious level, so I really liked that. And I really liked, in general, the performances in the movie. I think Beatty is great. As Hughes, he's not the focus of the movie. I'd say, it is a trio. It's a shared film between him, Lily Collins, and Alden Ehrenreich, who play the trio there. So it's all of their stories in one. And literally and figuratively, Hughes spends a lot of the time in the darkness, which I guess is appropriate enough because he's feeling old, he's feeling ugly. He doesn't realize that, he's an old man. He wants to kind of stay young which is the Hollywood mentality now, isn't it? And, part of it you can kind of figure is the Hughes personality. Maybe part of it is Beatty insecurity. You don't know. So, either way, it's great to see him back on the screen. But I think for the story that it wants to tell, I think in showing it in this trio is the best possible way to do it, and kind of lending to the next generation. And the kingdom and all that, where maybe the kingdom of Hollywood, if you want to put it that way, doesn't have a next of kin or anything like that. The DNA is still there. So I think in a lot of ways, this is Beatty back. He's back on the big screen. This is the first film I've ever seen in the theater with Warren Beatty. Kind of goes to show how long he's been away in seclusion, like Howard Hughes or something like that. I don't think this is necessarily a comeback as much as it is a goodbye, a passing of the torch, so to speak. His time is kind of over, and I think Beatty realizes that in a way. But he's left us a really good film. I think this is something that shouldn't be missed. I think you should take the opportunity to see it. So I would rate Rules Don't Apply 3.5 stars out of 4. It's entertaining and funny. Beatty is great, and it's a loving and hating tribute to old Hollywood that draws some parallels to today. So I enjoyed it. It's going to echo through some empty theaters, but see it now while you have a chance. I mean, I don't say this in a diminishing way to the movie, but this is something like you could take your grandma to see. It's an innocent kind of movie. Well, I mean, it's a comparatively innocent type of movie. It has an old-fashioned way about it. So I think it's something that, I don't know, call up your grandma, ask her to come see a talkie with you, and I'm sure she'll love it. She'll love seeing Warren Beatty back. So I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie, and I think it's worth seeing. So definitely don't pass up the chance to see Rules Don't Apply. I was very glad I seen it, and I think the performances are great. I think Beatty is as good as he's always been. I think we have a very interesting new kind of leading man character in Alden Ehrenreich. And Lily Collins, always great. She's so gorgeous. And yeah, I like the movie, so check it out. Are you one of the few people that saw the movie? So comment below, let me know if you saw it, and be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Director37.com, and until next time, I'll see you later.